bring it in. How far becomes this M-verse a chance
yeah,
for
you know, it's
hybrid
funny. I was
events?
going to say, just don't make people wear a headset to attend your show. You're going to ask a Metaverse question, right?
Not everybody can afford a holodeck, and it's probably a bit too tricky yet. But in how far in a better world can that become a thing for hybrid events?
It's a really good question. I'm not 100% sure yet how valuable the putting on goggles is in terms of the kinds of interactions, for example, that we're having right now. Like, I'm not sure, for example, for networking, it's a big enough incentive to experience it virtually to endure the learning curve. But where I do think the metaverse can be powerful is things you want to show someone. So if you want to show someone how to operate your digital twin in a workplace setting, like maybe the metaverse, the immersive aspect of that is compelling. I don't know. I mean, I would be a little bit careful at the moment because I think so much of what we talked about in this conversation is a failure of creative imagination. And there's also the need not only to create better events, but to, I'm not naive, we need to create the metrics and KPIs to document that these events are helping us with our bottom line. So I think that's job one, rather than like worrying about, oh, wouldn't it be cool to have a metaverse component? But I do think there could be a place for that. I mean, at the moment, the technology is not readily accessible enough to think about doing that. It would end up being more of an exclusionary thing. If you're serious about it and you think it could be compelling for your audience, I would probably start by having something on the show floor at your on-the-ground event where you get people used to donning headsets that they don't have to purchase and show them some things they can do on a headset that they might not expect, such as a product, maybe an interactive product demo or something like that, or have them interacting with a specialist who's not in the same location. So I would probably start with education rather than entertainment and start by making that part of your show floor and see what kind of interest and adoption there is from your attendees and go from there. I'm not completely down on the metaverse. I have been just frustrated with the notion that it's a revolutionary thing, and we've talked about this before, but I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg and Accenture should get credit for stuff like digital twins and virtual reality things, which have been in development for a long, long time before they came up with these words to try to make money and save their company in Zuckerberg's case. So that's my thing. But I think it's always worth exploring these things. But I would say create like hands-on lab settings where you can test your attendees' interest in these topics and educate them. Don't make them go buy expensive equipment to be involved. To Alan's point, hybrid events are about accessibility, and that's making events, I think, less accessible. So
how about a possible VR setting when it comes to this lounge that you mentioned a couple of times? Because that could make conversations a bit more conversation-like. You roam around, you form your conversation circle with 2 or 3 people, and might just be an idea.
And if you're in a virtual space, you can hear it. It's not like being in a typical chat room where it's text flying by.
And it might work without the glasses as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I have a pair of Quest headsets, and you know, I'm open to trying them for things like that. And I think it's worth it. I think we're in the experimentation phase with that. If it's optional, then I think it can be interesting. If it's required, then I think it starts to become problematic. But I think it's interesting. I mean, I will say, like, when I put the Quest, my new Quest headsets on, and like it's kind of like a console area where you can choose where to go. And you're hanging, in my case, I'm hanging out on this like weird island with like this like weird lake in front of me and this little patio. And it does kind of feel like you're there. I mean, it's kind of a cool feeling. Whereas like during this conversation, I still feel like I'm in my video space. So I think the metaverse does have a chance to make a more immersive type of experience of being around people. Maybe that would be really cool at some point. So yeah, we should be experimenting with this if we can do it in a way that doesn't exclude people.